Hi guys, here is a special report on how every Duggar couple met, from Jim Bob and Michelle to the latest couple to get married, Jeremiah and Hannah. But before we start, a few fun facts, shall we? The Duggar who got married the youngest is Justin at 18 years old, and the average engagement for almost all these couples lasted about 3 months or so. It seems like the standard in the Duggar household. Okay, so let's get to it. Jim Bob and Michelle. According to the Duggar family blog, Jim Bob had a friend named Fred Pirro who knew Michelle from school, and they somehow ended up doing some type of church visit to her childhood home. Apparently, Michelle barely remembered Jim Bob being there because he was so quiet during the visit, but Jim Bob was hit by the love bug, and he thought Michelle was the most beautiful girl he'd ever seen. The story goes that later that year, Jim Bob's mom hired Michelle to work at the yogurt shop she managed, and he ended up asking her out on a date. Specifically, they went to a high school banquet at Jim Bob's Christian school, and Jim Bob let Michelle drive on the way home because he wanted to put his hand on hers when she used a stick shift or something like that. And 19 kids later, the rest is history. Next, let's go to Josh and Anna. Josh, the oldest Duggar child and by far the most controversial, by the way, met his wife Anna in 2006 at a Christian homeschooling convention run by something called the Advanced Training Institute. So they were both homeschooled. Something Anna potentially wished she would have skipped, just saying. And according to sources, Anna was not allowed to discuss her feelings about Josh except for a 15-minute weekly conversation with her mom in the beginning. I mean, that's intense. They got married 2 years later in 2008. And he proposed at a restaurant on her birthday while the cameras were rolling. And Anna, I remember, she looked shocked at what was happening. Next is Jill and Derick. So the first Duggar girl to get married was Jill. And basically her marriage was kind of coordinated through Jim Bob in a way. Derick first met Jill while caroling during Christmas, of all things, in December 2011. But they both don't really remember that. Either way, they grew up not too far from each other in Arkansas. Before leaving for a mission trip in Nepal, Derick had asked Jim Bob to be his prayer partner. I mean, is that a thing, asking people you somewhat know or maybe don't even know to be your prayer partner, by the way? Anyways, Jim Bob accepted and thought maybe Jill would get along with Derick, so he connected them. And in March 2013, Derick talked to Jill over the phone, and things started to get more serious from there. So serious that in November of that year, Jill and Jim Bob flew all the way to Kathmandu, Nepal, across the world to meet him. And Derick and Jill started officially courting on that trip. Everything was filmed, and this was a super important storyline on 19 Kids and Counting. I mean, Jim Bob was pretty dedicated to go all that way to see if if Jill would date someone. Ironic that Jim Bob really orchestrated their relationship in a way, and now they don't really get along with him anymore. Jill and Derick seem like they have a very supportive, strong marriage, so it all worked out for sure. Next is Jessa and Ben. So Jessa met Ben when he attended the Duggars' church while on vacation with his family, because the first thing anyone wants to do on vacation is go to church, apparently. And the Duggars ended up inviting the Seawalls, Ben's family, to a conference days later, and Ben was determined to go to this conference. As the story goes, Jessa was initially worried that Ben wouldn't be interested in her because she was a bit older than him, but totally not the case. He was super interested. On September 9th, 2013, Ben asked Jim Bob to court Jessa at the Duggar house in this small room. They side hugged for the first time, And then they got engaged in 2014 in actually a really romantic way. I think this might be one of the best proposals. It involved notes and a train, and Ben had really put a lot of thought into the engagement. It was like a scavenger hunt that ended at a chapel. It was really sweet. And they lived happily ever after. I mean, they have 4 kids and going strong. Next was Jeremy and Ginger. So Jeremy met Ginger through Jessa and Ben, as the story goes, and they had met him in Texas. And so Jeremy, the soccer star, got to know Ginger through Jessa. Apparently, Jim Bob made Jeremy fill out a 50-page survey before accepting or allowing him to date or court Ginger, which is crazy, but also kind of smart. Jeremy is kind of the only significant other that seems to me was not really in the immediate circle of the Duggars, or his family wasn't. Like, they hadn't known his family for years or anything like that. So maybe that was the reason for the 50-page survey. They got married in 2016 and then moved to California, as we all know, where they enjoy the sun to this day. Next is Joy and Austin. So Joy and Austin knew each other a long time, since they were young kids. Joy was famously born the only girl in a string of like 8 boys, and it's well documented that she was a tomboy, so she hung out with the boys a lot, and they hung out with Austin. Apparently, I remember she said on the show that she was really impressed by a testimony of his faith that Austin gave while over at her house, and the sparks were flying. They started courting, they got married in 2017 when Joy was 19, and fun fact, Jill was actually Joy's matron of honor. And I think Austin is very close with John David. He's probably the closest to Austin. Anyways, now on to Joe and Kendra. Joe and Kendra have known each other for a long time too. They ran in the same circles as kids, and Kendra's dad is actually a pastor who married them, actually. And Kendra is so sweet, and Joe has said that they were talking as friends first and then moved on to courting afterwards. And he proposed, get this, at Joy's wedding to Austin, which is typically definitely a no-no. Like, you don't propose to someone at a wedding, but this was all arranged with Joy. And fun fact, Kendra has actually been pregnant at the same time as her mom, believe it or not. Next, let's go to Josiah and Lauren. Josiah and Lauren also knew each other for a very long time. Apparently, they met at, get this, a homeschooling conference in Texas, like Josh and Anna. If they weren't in the same religion, just like so many Duggar partners, they would have never met. Josiah actually was courting someone prior to Lauren, but it fell apart. Lauren and Josiah got married in 2018, and fun fact, they're both really great singers and they sing at events together. Next, let's go to the amazing Abbie and John David. Love them! Abbie is from Oklahoma, and John David once flew to a church event there. They met at the church event, connected there, and fell in love pretty quickly. He proposed on a surprise trip with a heart made of rose petals on the floor. They seem to have a very strong relationship, and rumor has it they could be or may be expecting their second baby, but it's not confirmed. They also got married later in the year in 2018, months after Josiah and Lauren. And following that one, it was Justin and Claire. Justin and Claire met at, get this, a family conference in Texas in 2019. Another conference, people. I mean, I see a theme here. The Spivies have known the Duggars for many years. Also a theme, like usually the families know each other. It's a familiar story. Justin was just 18 when he got married, and he seems to have relocated to Texas. And following that, it was Jed and Katey. Not a whole lot is known for sure about how they met, so not much to say here, unfortunately. but we know that Jed and Katey had the smallest length of an engagement of all the couples. It was only 45 days. And finally, Jeremiah and Hannah, who just recently got married. Hannah has said in a Q&A that she and Jeremiah met for the first time at one of her family's Christmas shows 10 or 15 years ago. The Duggars and the Wismans, I love that name, Wisman, who are from Nebraska, have known each other for years as well. Jeremiah proposed in January 2022, and they just got married in March 2022 in Nebraska, near where Hannah's family lives. All right, guys, I hope you liked my little rundown about how all the Duggar couples met so far. If you like this video, definitely give it a like, and if you like my content, please don't be shy and subscribe. Bye, guys!